Okay, so drop the replay code in.
Yes.
Um,
The replay code. Give me a second. I always forget how to go to replays. Do you want it now?
yeah, just put it in the chat. Just put it in our DMs.
Okay.
You're currently high silver.
Yes.
Like to aim for around diamond.
Yeah, it's a
Kind of
big goal, but
where you see yourself being in. Yeah, that kind of question when you're in school. Now, where do they see you? Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?
yeah.
Okay.
10 years, gosh.
Yeah, I fucking hope not. No.
I think that's it. If that's that one, just tell me.
Definitely shouldn't take that long. No, that's perfect. The code is absolutely perfect. Okay, why don't you tell me a little bit about this map while I set up my screen share?
Havana?
Yeah, so just tell, I mean, not about Havana itself, I mean this game.
Okay, so if I remember correctly, I did start out with Mercy, and I am playing with my friend. She's going the other healer, if I remember correctly. I just looked at this last night. I think it was a pretty good game for me. We did end up losing, but I definitely just I don't think either of us just played poorly. I just think that the other team outplayed us in the end. So I just think that's kind of what happened there. That game was really fun. I had no complaints about that. Like yesterday, I had such bad games with throwers. Like one game, there's just nobody in voice chat, and I just don't know what to do there. But this game was good. Some people the tanks were a little bit like wouldn't talk to people, and they wouldn't switch. But most people were really good here. But yeah, I think I played pretty well for like I usually do. I think I play Ana, Mercy, and I think I play a little bit of Brig, but I don't think much.
Okay. And is this on PC?
Yes.
Okay. Just to confirm, because I do have some people that come from console. Okay. Cool. What's your? Okay, can you see the screen share fine? I'm screen sharing on Discord.
Okay.
You should be able to see everything. My nice big scribble.
Yeah, I can see it.
And if it's like kind of pixelated, then let me know, and I can change the server to NA. In fact, I've just changed do that now. Are you East?
I'm Central.
Okay. It should be marginally better for you now.
Yes.
Well, it just means that it won't buffer so much. It'll just be better to. Okay, better connection. What's your? Oh, I see. God, you got a very interesting tag. That's a very unusual tag.
Yes.
Okay.
I asked them to switch to Sigma. I mean, Orisa. So we can go Orisa Sigma, but they wouldn't budge.
Okay. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's just silver, so
it's one of those things where I just like I wouldn't be that worried about it.
Yeah.
So like straight off the bat, okay, we haven't even watched anything, right? And you've said very little to me, but I can tell you right now that you already have a problem.
Oh,
You're already way too focused about what your team are doing, right? Like just from the messages that you sent me, the fact that you're saying there's throwers and shit, and that you're asking your guys to swap before the game's even started, right? This is a really bad mentality problem and will hurt you in the long term, right?
Okay.
You straight away, you can't give a shit about what your teammates are doing, right? They are going to be trash. They are silver, right? Absolutely guaranteed 100% they're going to be terrible players, right? And you've just got to get past that. They're going to pick bad heroes. They're going to pick bad heroes in really terrible matchups. They're going to do stupid shit. They're just going to play badly, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You have to get past that straight away. You have to be beyond that. And forget about what your team are doing, right? once you come out of this VOD, you will have a very clear list of things that you need to be going away and focusing on and improving, right? And you need to be objective and focused on that, right? You're not going to improve by having any concerns about what your team are doing. You just simply, it just takes away from the effort that you need to put in to make yourself a better player, right?
Okay.
So straight away, right? You've got to get beyond that, right? It's a really bad mentality issue, and it will hurt you long term if you're really worried about what your team are doing. Because they're never going to do what you want them to be doing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was debating going on it here because of the Genji. I think that's why I went back in the spawn room.
Yeah, so arguably, okay, well, again, so we're getting to that point where we're like, our team are going to be trash. We can accept that now, right? Playing Mercy is a really poor character choice if your team are trash, right? She is heavily reliant on pocketing a DPS that's going to be getting high value, right? You're going to enable that DPS to get more value. Unless you're duo queuing with a DPS, or you're stacking with a DPS that you know that's going to get value, you know you can trust them to get value, playing Mercy is often not a particularly high value pick because you just can't rely on your DPS to necessarily get value from it, right?
Yeah.
So something like Ana, pretty much any other healer other than Mercy is you have the ability to make plays on your own, right? And particularly in silver, or just in low SRs in general, you need to get to a point where you're like, well, I'm going to carry myself out of this SR, right? I'm going to be the one to step up and make the difference. I'm going to be the one to carry this game, because that's the only way you're going to do it, right?
Yeah.
The only way that you're going to climb is you make the difference yourself, because your team simply aren't going to do it, right? Otherwise, you're just going to sit in a scenario where it's 50-50, right? And even if you're marginally better, it's going to take you absolutely ages to climb out of this tier, right? But obviously, we're here with Mercy, right? And I'm going to give you feedback on your play on Mercy. But bear that in mind, right? That you will often have a hard time making a difference with Mercy because it relies so much on your DPS to actually do stuff, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And ultimately, you've got to put it on your head to be the one to step up, to kill shit, to make stuff happen. Even if you're playing support, right? You have to be the one to make the difference yourself.
This is not your time.
See, right, like this is all fine, but we're just actively not making any difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, like objectively speaking, you're playing pretty well here, right? You're playing safe, you're using the hard cover effectively, you're damage boosting when you need to. You know, there's very little to fault here in this, right? That was a little bit risky there. It may have been better that if you wanted to go for that res to fly over here first, then you have hard cover here, and then you could fly to that res, and you'd always have someone to fly back to, right? Because you're kind of concerned about going for that res because, well, obviously it's very difficult to get to it. I mean, realistically, the only way you were going to do that was from hard cover, right? I'm going to go back a little bit just because I want to see it again. Wait, so, sorry, I need to go back to your POV because we can't actually see it otherwise. Okay, so she's dead there. Now we can actually see it. Because if you really want to go for that res, why not fly here? And then stand on the car and do that res.
Okay.
I think I understand why you hesitated on it, because it's, like, arguably, it's not, like, the smartest or the safest res in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not going for it is fine, right? But if you're not going to go for it, decide you're not going to go for it straight away, because you kind of hesitate about this. If you're going to define your style by making aggressive plays like that, then fine, right? Don't hesitate. Go for it while you have the opportunity. Go straight for it. Get the res. Come back. Because these opportunities pass very, very quickly, right? Particularly when it comes to res. If you're in a position to get it, I understand taking the risk going for it, right? I think it's difficult, right? Because obviously they're all here. And if you mess up your positioning, you're just going to die, and I'm actually not sure whether you can get in range of this without getting yourself killed. Probably if you crouch behind cart, you're okay. Then again, they've got McCree. He can probably push you and flashbang you out of it, right? Like, maybe we don't need to overanalyze this. I think not going for it is probably the smarter play. But don't hesitate about it, right? Set yourself on not getting that res and put yourself in a better position. Because you spend all this time hesitating about it and you're within the LOS, right? When you were doing such a good job playing back here the whole time, you could have just flown over here, been in hard cover, doing exactly the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And maintain the hard cover. That's why you need to be decisive about it, right? If you're going to go for it, I understand, like, okay, look, we took a risk. Fine. But we almost get caught out by being hesitating about it, right? Because if you'd put yourself in this position over here and you'd been pocketing your team as they move back, then you would have had the opportunity to just fly and then jump over them, right? And then be back here in safety.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise you get caught in the middle. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes
right,
sense.
so the key point I'm trying to make is you want to move from hard cover to hard cover to hard cover, right? Something like this. And you could go to here and then you could go to here. But you don't want to be in this space in the middle. Because it makes it very difficult, especially if your team are coming back, right? And if you'd, say, flown, or even like this, right? And let's say you'd flown to the front, there's still people behind you, you can then go back here, right? And you can stay in this hard cover while your team moves back, and then you can fly to them, and then you can go back to position 1 over here, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So that res was never going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Because we're not in hard cover. Right, so we absolutely should have just held off on that one. Ask for a bubble, maybe? If you want to go for it, you can say, do you have bubble? Right?
Yeah.
If he doesn't respond to you, then, okay, whatever. Unlucky. Okay, this movement here is really poor.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so hard cover to hard cover. You can be up on this corner. Right? That's fine. That's great. That's going to give you maximum range to reach this guy as well. You can probably reach him from this corner. Right? If you need to be with someone over here, then go over there. Right? Then you need to be over this side. You can't be in the open space because you're going to get shot at, right? It's hard cover to hard cover. Always. Right? Maybe you could be here on the cart. It's probably okay. Right? But we've got to be staying in hard cover the whole time. This is why you've got to use the kit that you have as Mercy, right? You have mobility, use it. You don't need to walk from A to B because that in that time you're in this space, you're always exposed to someone shooting at you, right? So we can fly from here to here. And that way we're always staying in cover, right? Or maybe you're flying from over here, right? Because then you don't bonk on the cart, right? We should be moving from hard cover to minimize the amount of time that we're exposing ourselves to the opponent team, right? Because we don't want to be in their LOS. And you're clearly cognizant of that, but you just kind of like slow walk out now, right? Maybe it's not that bad, but it... Okay, and then we're ulting and we're 2 down? Are we 2 down? We are 2 down, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So, probably not ideal to use our ult here. Because the chances of us turning this fight around are pretty slim, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, situationally speaking, we should probably be saving our ult for either pushing an advantage or trying to stabilize. But at this point, people are going to die to tire, right? And then you've just wasted your ult. Because this fight's going to lose, like, you're going to lose the fight and then you're not going to be able to heal anyone, right? So you're not going to get any value from this ultimate. So you should be looking, like, realistically with Mercy ult, a lot of the time you can use it preemptively. Use it at the start of the fight, before the fight's even started, right? Because you can damage boost your whole team. If you're using it early in the fight, you can give them an advantage, give 5 people damage boost straight off the bat. And they can use that to create space, right? To take some sort of advantage with that damage boost. Rather than waiting till so late in the fight that 2 people are dead, and now you're just healing a Zarya, right? Which you could have done without your ult. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right, so because we could have done exactly what we're doing here without Guardian Angel, and it would have made no difference. Right, we would have been doing exactly the same as we are now, except we wouldn't have wasted her ult. And she's gonna die to that tire, and then we're like, oh well, we got no value from that ult. That sucks. But again, the difficulty here is that it's not gonna be. You're not gonna have the opportunity to make a play here, right?
Yeah.
To make that difference, to push yourself to the next level. And if your goal is to climb more than anything else, then I would scrap Mercy completely and never play her again. So again, what we talked about before here, we wouldn't have been in this position if we had flown like this, right?
Yeah.
To this hard cover, and then say once we force this guy back, we can then fly to this hard cover, right? And then over here, and so on and so forth, right? But you can move from pieces of hard cover to hard cover, right? This is really, really important because Mercy is all about maintaining LOS from the opponent team, right? When I say LOS, I mean line of sight, right? So avoiding them being able to see you, right? Playing where they can't physically shoot at you, where they can't see you. Okay.
Let's get you back out there. I get the
This is bad.
Yeah, that was poor.
Let's get you back out there.
But it's the same thing, we're in open space, right? But we could have done all of this while we were stood over here, right? Heal, damage boost, heal, damage boost, heal, damage boost. They can't even see you, right? They can't even shoot at you. And if they then push up to you, your teammates will have walked back and you can just fly to them, right? And then you're back at hard cover again, where they can't shoot at you, right?
Yeah.
And it's pretty... When you have that in mind, it's pretty easy to avoid the opponent team as Mercy, right? Because you're always flying from one piece of hard cover to the next piece of hard cover. And then if your team start backing up, it's fine. You stand at that hard cover until they've gone past you, right? Like, you just chill in here. Oh, I didn't want that one. Right, you can just chill in here and wait until your team's walked back, right? And then when they're somewhere over here, you can then fly to them and then you can just jump in the middle, right? And then it puts you back somewhere here to safety. Because the enemy team have to push so far up to be able to actually shoot at you. Also, if your team are going to play this slow, so this is a macro concept that I'm going to kind of introduce here very briefly. If your team are going to play slow, what's the most important thing in your team if it's going to play slow? Or what would you want them to have a lot of? Would you want them to be really tanky? Would you want to have lots of healing? If they're going to play slow, what do you want lots of?
Lots of I would say probably burst damage.
Absolutely
Try to
right.
get a pick.
Absolutely right. Okay, you know your shit, man. Right? So like if you're gonna play a slow comp, so we'd call like those kind of slow comps, we'd call them poke comps, right? Or spam comps. Right? So you'd have like a Junkrat, maybe a Zenyatta, maybe a Baptiste, right? Heroes that do lots of damage. Because over time, damage will break their shields, it will poke them out, right? They'll get low HP and they'll have to walk back. Right?
Yeah.
So, and how well does Mercy contribute to that?
I don't really know, honestly.
Well, how much damage does Mercy do?
Not much.
Like none, right? Like literally none. So, like theoretically, in those kind of comps, she can be quite good because if you've got a very good DPS player, you can enable them to play more aggressively, right? As I said before, right? If you've got a good DPS player on your team, then you can be playing Mercy and you can be engaging with them to, you know, to push them to take better angles, to take better positions, because they can then play more aggressively because you're pocketing them, right? And you don't have to be scared about being really far up because you can always fly back to your team. So it can be good in those comps, right? But if you're a DPS, they aren't pushing aggressively, they aren't trying to take angles, you know, they're not trying to put themselves in a position where they can kill the enemy team, then you're not getting value on Mercy, right? Because you'd straight up, if your team are going to play this passive, you just have more healing playing Anna, right? So if all you want to do is heal them, play Anna, you know? You're not, like, you could, they're not going to go, if they're not going aggressive, then you don't need to be able to position aggressively, which is exactly what Mercy can do, right? Because of her high mobility, she can then be, like, for instance, right, if your team were pushed up here, then your Ashe could do something sensible like take this high ground, right? And then you could be up there with her, and you could always fly back because you're Mercy, right? So that is the glorious life of a Mercy player, is you can put yourself in this aggressive position, say up here with your Ashe. Your Ashe can like get some crazy angle, she can shoot at their backline, great, and you can enable her to do that because you're Mercy. If they're not doing that, you could have done everything that you were doing in this sequence with Anna, but better, right? Because Anna just has more healing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right, and you'll find this a lot in the elo that you're in, that you simply just won't get value on Mercy. And it's... I mean, mostly it's about your team, right? They're just not good enough. They just don't understand how to get value from Mercy, and it's not anything that you can change, because they're not going to play aggressively. And if they're not going to play aggressively, you can't put yourself in a position where you can play aggressively with them and enable them to play more aggressive, right? Because that's exactly what Mercy does. She enables aggression. I know this is just me bashing on Mercy a lot, which is really hard. Because she is very good in higher skills, right? When people know how to play more aggressively, when they're actually using those heals to do something. But right, two reasons again. Like if your team is going to play this slow, right? That is the key thing. If the composition that they're playing, in fact, fuck the composition, right? If they're just going to play slow, you want damage, right? Like I said, going back to that former point, you want to have a composition with lots of damage. Something like Zenyatta, something like Baptiste, they would do that job, right? Really well. Maybe they're not in your hero pool. Okay. No, then we can talk about something else, right? But if you don't want to be silver, playing Mercy isn't going to help you, right? Or unless you find yourself like a DPS, like I said, that you can play with and that you can pocket and that you can rely on. But it's very, very hard otherwise as Mercy to climb, right? Because you can't enable your team. And realistically, Mercy is not... She's not a healer like in the same way that Moira is, right? She doesn't want to play passive and play slow and just play for heals. She wants to go aggressive. She wants to play an aggressive position with a DPS that's trying to look to get on a flank, right? That is where she finds value. Otherwise, like you're doing now, you know, we've talked about, okay, you could be utilizing hardcover better, but that's like one thing, you know? It's a minor point in the grand scheme of things. Well, no, it's not actually. It is fundamental to playing Mercy really well. But you could be doing so much more playing something else. Okay, so this is a great usage of your ult, right? So, like we said, using it preemptively here is really nice. Our team's going to have a lot of extra damage into this fight. Okay, they just all died to a Junkrat tire.
I was trying to run res the Ryan, but I messed up on that.
Still a good res. So again, we kind of walk up here without managing our hard cover at all, right? And if this McCree had peeked from high ground, he could have killed you in this sequence walking up here, right? He doesn't, but he could have.
Yeah.
Right, because we're still stood in the open. Just because you've got a shield in front of you doesn't mean you're safe, right? You can't rely on shields, essentially, right? It's not hard cover. You shouldn't be stood behind a shield expecting it not to die. You should expect shields to just die, right? And again, you could be adjusting your positioning by going over here. You could even take a position like right here, right? Wherever you are, you should be at some sort of hard cover, right? One of these positions would be absolutely fine. They'd be perfect. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because from here, 1, he can shoot you, but 2, this shield just breaks. You're just dead, and you're never going to make it to hardcover before they kill you, right? If you're not already at the hardcover. If you're not already stood right next to the hardcover, you're just dead straight away.
Surrender to my will. I could use some assistance.
Okay.
The battle continues.
Oh, that's fortunate. So again, we're not at hardcover. Okay, we move back to hardcover. So you notice how we're kind of like walking around without a care in the world, and at any point in time, they could just start shooting at you. This is one of those things where like you won't get punished for it because they are objectively very terrible. Right, but at any point, like the fact that Sarah can walk there is completely ridiculous. This is the Junkrat's like 5th tire. What the hell? Okay. And he completely fails his flashbang, and so you're able to get that res off. We're actually playing hardcover. Look, this is nice. You're actually floating around the hardcover, which is really good. Whether that's just by complete chance, I don't know. It's really difficult because your team are not killing anything. This is actually crazy. What? That res would have been much better probably from here, right? Stood on cart with hardcover, rather than being stood here in front of the enemy team. I'm not sure you could have done. Could you have done that from hardcover? Oh wait, you res him after this, right? Could have done this stood on top of the cart, right? If you'd crouched here, they would have had a slightly worse LOS on you than here. Right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be walking out in front of the whole enemy team like this and just pressing your ult or pressing your E when there's a McCree that can just destroy you. There's a Zarya that's probably got a billion charge right now. You should be dead, right?
Yeah.
Like 100% should be dead here. But we get away with it. We are back at hardcover as well, which is nice. And again, hardcover to hardcover, right? So be here, then fly over here. And if you want to, oh look, my Moira, I could just fly back over here, or I can be to my Ashe, right? Don't put yourself in the open space. Okay, so he's not going to see you because he's a Papega brain. I honestly cannot believe that you get this point.
Point me in the right direction.
Oh. Okay, let's go up. Great, this is really nice. Like I said, we want to be playing aggressive, right? We want to be up here. Just as I was about to compliment you for the intelligent play there of going aggressive and helping your Ashe get some extra damage in while they walk up. Even charging that last 5% of your ult before the fight chart starts. That would have been great, right?
The tanks were yelling at me to go back to the point, so I did that.
Okay, they're idiots.
But I think the Moira, my friend, told me to go back up, so I think I did that.
Okay, we'll see. You being here is completely useless, right? Like you're doing nothing. Okay, we do go back up. We're not pocketing who we should be, but it's okay. Okay, great. Now we're doing what we should be doing here. Briefly. Right, so what are we waiting for with our ult, right? There's no reason to wait this long with the ult, right?
Yeah.
Because you see how much pressure they're taking? They've taken all this space back. They've got... And this is the kind of thing that you want to be using it for, right? If they've got some sort of advantage, they're taking all this space, and we're not able to contest it because, I don't know, maybe our comp's not quite as good or whatever. Or in this situation, for some reason, they've just got a resources advantage at this point in time, right? That is a great time to use your ult. Because we don't want to concede this part of the map, right?
Yeah.
Our Ashe being up here means that they can't be stood here, right? So we should be enabling our Ashe to take this aggression, right? And even like with our Reinhardt was up here or whatever, right? Great opportunity to use your ult because it's going to mean that you can keep control of this part of the map. But we're just kind of... So, our Moira's dead. We'll go for this res. Our Winston's going to be dead. Then we ult, right? We're one down now. Right? And it's like, oh, well, shit. Generally wouldn't be damage boosting my Reinhardt, who stood there with his shield up.
You should be at
I just
peak
want to point
performance
out
level.
one thing as well about how you played this last little sequence here. How could we have done what we were doing better? I'm going to go back actually, because it's a bit more obvious in the earlier part of the fight. How good do we think our positioning is here?
I think it's very bad.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's very bad, but it could be better, right?
I just don't like the high ground. I would like to get next to the Rhine.
I don't think you want to be next. You definitely don't want to be next to your Rhine.
Really?
Absolutely not, no. Because you're a squishy target, you want to be as far back as possible. And actually, the high ground's great for you. Because they're... But... Well, because they'd have to use resources to get you up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they push into your team, like they are right now, you're not threatened because you're on the high ground. The only difference I'd make is rather than standing here in the open space, just stand here. Right, and then you've got this massive great thing to stand behind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a it makes no difference to you, right? Whether you're stood here or stood here. Except that, well, it makes no difference to you, like, as what your function is, right? You can still heal everyone. You still have the same line of sight as you did before. You just have this piece of hard cover, right? This massive great pillar. That you can just walk backwards. And let's say the Junkrat started shooting at you, he would then have to walk around here to be able to shoot at you, right?
Yeah.
And if he's here, he's now super out of position, right? He's a really easy kill if he stands here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So this is the same point about hardcover, right? Rather than standing here out in the open, stand here next to the hardcover. The high ground is fine. I don't have an issue with the high ground. There's only an issue with the high ground if you're just like stood out in the open like this, where you could literally get shot at from everywhere, right? Otherwise, the high ground itself is actually pretty good. In fact, this Junkrat is trying to shoot at you. He's just terrible. And then he gives up trying to shoot you because he's so terrible. Because you notice how they don't even realize you're on the high ground, right? And this is probably because they're silver and they can only see things stood right in front of them. Okay.
Your support has arrived.
Just go top up our dude. So maybe think about where we want to be, where this fight starts, or they're not going to recontest. Okay, so they don't recontest. That's fortunate. So who do we want to be with most of the time?
Ashe.
Ashe, absolutely. Not down here with our Reinhardt. Also, we're healing our Reinhardt, who's full HP and has a shield up. You could at least be damage boosting your Moira, right? Meanwhile, our Ashe is over here. I mean, if you were pocketing him, It's terrible, right? He shouldn't be here, but let's say that he'd done something smart, like stand here. And if you were with him, stood here, pocketing him from behind, suddenly he's getting loads more value, right? Because they can't. Because if he stood here and he's shooting at them, they have to walk back because there's no hard cover, right? Oh my lord, why can't I not move? Hello? Okay, that was weird. Does that make sense? Right? And your job as Mercy is to enable people like him to play more aggressively, right? There should be very little of your time spent healing tanks. When you have Moira, I would probably say you're healing tanks maybe... and I mean this in all seriousness, like 0.5% of the time. You maybe heal a tank once in a game.
Okay. Gosh.
Like, basically never. Because they're silver, you might heal them a bit more, because they're going to take damage because they're bad. But it should be very, very uncommon for you, right? Because you have a Moira. Your Moira can do 12 gajillion heals, right? She's got infinite healing. And she's going to be on the low ground with your tanks, because that's how you play Moira, right? But Mercy doesn't play like that. Mercy wants to enable DPS to take more aggressive positions, right? And because you're there with them, healing them, they don't get forced out. They're therefore able to maintain sustained pressure, right? If your Ashe is here on her own, she gets shot at, she has to go back. If the Ashe is here with you, and you're healing her, she's shooting at all these guys, they all have to walk backwards, right? And suddenly 3 of their team are basically dead. They're not actually dead. Well, maybe she kills one of them, great. But otherwise, they're forced out, right? And then it's a 3v5 or 3v4 or whatever, right? And your team walks onto them. Great. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay, we just... Why? Why? Any idea why you did that?
Not really.
What was wrong with being here with your Reinhardt? You're completely safe. How likely are these guys to survive? Even if you heal them.
Not high.
Like, impossibly, right? It's literally, it's impossible. Their whole team is there shooting at one person. 100% of the time they die, right? There's no way. It would be completely absurd if they were going to survive here, right? So you should just stay here, stay alive, don't stagger, right? Because if you then, now you're like walking up, putting yourself out of position, right? You're really, if you die there, you've just wasted another like 4 or 5 seconds, right? Which isn't that big of a deal, but it's just an awareness thing, right? Like, why would you go for this? There's no way your Moira's going to live. No chance. Even if you heal them. And if you do get there and heal them, and you've done enough to keep them alive, then you should be dead, right? To do that. Because you put yourself so far out of position, literally 6 people are shooting at you. The whole enemy team could see you and only you, right?
Yeah.
No way that you should be surviving that situation. Okay, so we top our Reinhardt up, that's not so bad. Again, how much value are we going to get from this ult?
Like, close to 0.
We have no tanks, right? So we can't go aggressive here. We're 2 down. I mean, okay, they are only 5 people. They have lost 1. So we are 4v5. And they are also in probably one of the most terrible positions they could be in the whole universe. Because they're all stood in open space. And you have an Ashe. So obviously this is terrible, right? They're just going to get shot at. It doesn't help that your Ashe couldn't shoot a Rein shield if it was right in front of her. Okay, our Doomfist gets a pick, which is absolutely incredible. It's very difficult because your Ashe is actually really terrible. And so healing him, like facilitating his aggression is really hard. Because he doesn't have any idea how to position. And again, that's why playing Mercy is really tough.
I see what you mean now. I didn't know that's how you played Mercy. I thought she was more like a pocket to, like a healer helper.
I mean,
So you
yeah,
just
sure. You can pop back and heal your supports up, right? Heal for your other supports, but that's only because you're so mobile, right?
Yeah.
Your mobility is to enable aggression. Otherwise, what's the point in mobility? If you're stood back with your team, then what's the mobility for? What's it doing? Right? It serves no purpose if you're stood at the back of your team. Right? It's an escape. It's so you can play more aggressive, right? These high mobility. Think about other high mobility characters. Tracer. How does Tracer play? Incredibly aggressive.
Yeah.
Echo. Incredibly aggressive. Sombra. I'd say she's no. Maybe Sombra's not that. Doomfist. Also incredibly mobile. How does he play? Very, very aggressive, right? And although those aren't typical hero pairings with Mercy, right? People like Hanzo, people with like not super great sustain are typically people you'd play with Mercy. Hanzo, Ashe, they're really, really strong picks with Mercy. But they have to be playing aggressive, right? It's so you can, again, like they could take a really good angle, a really aggressive angle that means they can get lots more value and you can sustain them in that position. That's kind of the point. Okay, I mean, like, completely on a completely fundamental game, like on a completely fundamental level. Realistically, how do you win these games? Like on the most basic level, how do you win?
Just outplaying the other team.
Even more simpler than that.
Oh.
Killing them, right?
Oh.
If they're dead,
Yeah.
you're gonna win. And Mercy doesn't kill people, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to shit on Mercy too much because I do think she is viable sometimes. She is an all right character. She's just really terrible in low ranks, like really terrible. You will have a terrible experience playing Mercy because, like you've already said yourself, you're playing good. You're playing fine anyway. Like I mean, we pointed out quite a few things that you could be fixing, but you're not feeding, right? You're not playing badly. You're just not doing enough, right? You're not killing people. You're not creating opportunities for your team. You're just a heal bot, right? You're just like really not enabling anyone because they don't know how to use being enabled, right? And it just means you get very, very little value. Did you say you play Ana in the next half?
I think I do.
Okay. So we're actually doing a pretty good job. A lot of the time we are actually using hardcover, right? It's clearly something you're aware of. Like I'm guessing you've played some other FPS games aside from Overwatch.
I played Paladins a little bit.
Okay.
Or a lot. I got pretty good at that game, but I've been playing Overwatch a little bit more lately. I think I was just trying to keep us alive.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, the fight's probably lost anyway. You had too many people dead at that point. It was going to be really difficult. What I really want to see is I want to see you play Ana. Because I'll be honest, I want to help you get better. I want to help you win games, right? I want you to see the results. And
I'm so bad at Ana though. It's embarrassing.
Okay. Mechanically, or just you just have no idea what you're doing? Or both?
I mean, I think it's kind of both. Mechanical skill is a lot harder for me, especially coming from Paladins because they're huge hitboxes. So mechanically, I have good days and I have bad days, mostly bad days. But I feel like most of the time it's just I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay. So I'll just address the mechanics issue because there's very little that I can like very little I can say in a VOD review that's gonna like help you get better mechanically, right? The biggest fix is simply to play more. Right? The more you play, the better your mechanics will get. And doing things that are like high intensity, so things like free for all and Widow headshot only are the two kind of things that I advocate for because they're going to give you high intensity training and it's still playing Overwatch, right? So the way that mechanics work is fundamentally the same. So these are the two things that I kind of advocate for, and if you really want to get your mechanics better, you know, I'd spend a good half an hour a day doing that kind of thing.
Okay.
And just grinding out your mechanics. They will not get better on their own. You just, like, you know, they won't magically get better if you don't play very much. The more you play, the faster they're going to improve. How good is this position for you as Anna?
It's good, I think.
Okay. Okay. Why?
Because it's high ground and you have hard cover on your left. And if you can back up, it's pretty easy with a window behind you.
Do we know what heroes they're playing before they leave spawn?
No.
Okay, let's say a Widowmaker just peeks behind this Rhine shield. How good is this for you now?
I know it. I die here.
Right?
Yeah. It's not good on the left.
Wait, is the Widow actually going to peek you? That's fucking
Yeah.
hilarious. It's
I died
absolutely
here.
hilarious if she does, right? You don't know what heroes they're playing, right? God, I didn't even look at their comp and think about it. I wasn't saying it's because of their comp. It's like it's just a very common example for me. Right? Shooting a Rhine shield as Anna, dude. Like, what? It does nothing. It does nothing, right? The high ground here is okay, right? If you were stood over here, maybe it can be fine. It can be fine. But if they have snipers on, especially like on this map, you know, how often do you see snipers on Havana? I don't know how often you do in Silver, actually. So how often do you see snipers on Havana?
I feel like it's pretty often.
Probably like 90% of the time.
First point.
Right, like realistically in higher elos, it's going to be 90% of the time, right? Especially on this first point, because we just look here, it's bloody great long sight line, right? Absolutely perfect for Widowmaker, right? It is Widowmaker's heaven. Even same here, right? All absolutely godlike positions for Widow, right? So straight away, we should be expecting there to be snipers, right? And so peeking this as Anna is not the most intelligent thing in the world, right? Because if this Widowmaker, again, just pops out behind the shield, bloody hell, even the Hanzo, if the Hanzo just peeks out and goes, punk, punk, right? Headshots you, GG, easy, one person dead, right? And this damage is meaningless. Especially hard scoping like this, right? We're not actively trying to shoot at anyone. And there's no way you can be hard scoping with these guys peeking it like this, right? No way. Why not here? What's wrong with being here? Behind your Rhine shield. Even better, right? If this Rhine was less bad, he'd play up near the corner, right? And that way you could play here, right? And you can just go peek out, shoot, peek out, shoot, peek out, shoot, peek out, shoot. And when the Rhine shield dies, you still got hard cover, so you just walk back. Right? That's how you want to be playing, right? Being up here, it's fine if they're playing Reaper and May, and they're playing like a Brawl comp, right? So when I say a Brawl comp, I mean like a Lucio, Rhine, like they run at people kind of comp, right? This would be fine because they can't get to you on high ground, right? But we don't know what they're playing. So we can't take the risk of being up here. And here is always going to be safer, right? Somewhere down here. If you want to play aggressive, maybe you take this flank, right? And that means that you can throw a nade into the team from behind the shield, right? Or wait until the cart's a little bit closer and do the same thing here. Or even just throw it through here, right? That's fine. That's the kind of aggressive play that you can be making. But being over here, the difficulty as well that I have with this position, it's not only that you went high ground, right? But it's the fact that you play here rather than here. Because if you're playing here and they're playing snipers, where'd you go? You're just stuck. Like, yeah, of course, sure, you got hard cover, but how do you ever get out? They just stare at this sight line and then they shoot you when you try and move, right? And especially when snipers are really, really common here, this is just, it's going to be bad every single time, right? Unless you wait literally until the cart's gone around this corner, and then you peek out, right? And then you throw a nade on them. Like, that's probably okay, right? Yeah. Then you get value. But to get that value, you will have had to sit here AFK for 30 seconds, doing nothing, getting no value, right? So playing low ground would have been much better from us, for you, right? And like I said, if you want, you could go around inside here, and then maybe you're throwing a nade on them from the flank, if you want to make an aggressive play. Does that all stack up for you?
Yeah.
Is that clear? Okay. Great. Alright, so we feed our brains out. That's unfortunate.
Sniper, keep your head down.
It'll take more than that to keep me out of the fight.
So straight away, we now know they're playing snipers. So we have to recognize we should be playing conservatively, right? We should be playing some way that means that we're not going to put ourselves in the line of sight of the snipers. So, especially importantly here, it's going to be using hard cover, right? So that whole little sequence there, right? It's just like, why? Why? None of that made any sense. Right? We have no clear... You have no clear plan in your mind of what you're trying to do here, right? Right, like, what's our plan in our mind here? How are we going to play this next fight? Do we need to wait? Do we even need to be pushing out here, right? Half our team's dead. Right, our Doomfist's in spawn. Our Reinhardt's still respawning. Our D.Va's about to die. How good is pushing out here?
Not good.
Like, terrible, right? But we could do something interesting. Maybe you've got a plan in your mind. Maybe like, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to then be here and I'm going to look for a nade from the flank because they don't have anyone that can contest me that easily on the high ground. I mean, actually, that's a lie, right? Because the snipers, this is a bit of a question mark, but I would understand if you made a play, right? If you had a plan in mind, right? We have no goal in mind coming into this fight. We're just like, oh, well, look, this guy needs healing. I need to run at him, heal him, right? Or her, sorry. You see what I mean, though, right? We don't have, like, an idea of what we're trying to do here. And then we're even pivoting out, right? They've got 2 bloody snipers. You'd never want to be here, literally ever. Right? Even mid-fight, you never want to be here. You never want to be here, right? You'd never put yourself intentionally. Maybe you end up here by accident, right? But there is probably, like, this could only be made worse if you were stood here. By being literally as far away from all hard cover as possible, right? It's just kind of playing with your brain turned off, right? And again, maybe the hard cover thing isn't something you actively recognize, right? But you could have just stayed where you are right now is perfect, right? Absolutely perfect. And you could have stayed there for this whole sequence and just stayed here, waited for your guys to respawn, which we've got to do anyway, right? And then you're in complete safety the whole time. And if your team decide to feed, well, look, there's nothing you could do about that, right? But at least you played safe yourself. Mad panic to back up. Okay. This is a really important thing too. How should we back up here? What kind of pathing? Okay, look, let me draw your pathing. And you can tell me how you could make it better. How could we make that better?
A little bit more unpredictable.
Okay. Yeah. That's not really what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And now, put a massive great wall in front of you that they can't shoot through. Right? If they're peeking this sight line, which they are, this is obviously much better, right? And this is, again, why we're playing corners, why we're playing hard cover. Because if you peeked out here, then you pivot back behind here. Right? And you can be doing this, and you could do the same thing here, right? You want to take the shortest angle around these corners. You want to be as close to the corner as possible, because it puts you in hard cover much quicker, right? As simple as that, right? It's going to put you in hard cover much quicker. Right, screw our soldier. And we're on a wide angle this whole time, and they've got 2 snipers, man. They've got 2 snipers. At any moment in time, if they weren't potatoes doing literally nothing, one of them would have moved over here and they would have shot at you, right? But they're terrible, so they're just AFKing in the shittest, most useless position ever, right? But they shouldn't be doing that, right? And we can't expect them to do something that terrible.
Just a scratch, you'll be fine.
We're hard scoping again. You don't. Okay, let me just explain. You don't want a hard scope because it makes you very, very immobile, right? And it means that you're very, very easy to shoot, right? You want a quick scope. Do you understand?
I'm working on that. I'm not very good at it, but I've been put like hours on the practice range just doing
so
quick scopes.
if you want to make Anna your hero, go play Anna paintball, right? This is just the same thing about what I was talking about before. Like if you want to go get some high intensity mechanics training, Anna paintball, really, really good for training Anna mechanics. You will get very good very quickly because you're just going to get rolled for ages at the start, right? You're just going to get walked on, and you'll then realize, God, my mechanics are weak. I really need to make them better.
The payload has reached the
Our
checkpoint.
positioning was kind of okay, right? But we could have played a little bit closer around that hard cover as well.
Hello there.
I don't think you understand the gravity of the situation. Activating the barrier.
Are you trying to do what I think you're trying to do?
Yeah,
Who has the advantage in this duel?
her definitely.
Like by a long shot, right? Don't peek a widow. Don't try and challenge a widow. If she's not looking at you, right? If she's here and she's shooting at someone over there, okay, maybe you take one shot. Maybe you throw a sleep dart, even better. Right? Because if you throw a sleep dart, then you can throw a nade and then you can fire a shot and then you can get her very, very low, right? And she's really quite scared then. You literally shot at her and she's there pre-firing you. She happens to kill your Doomfist by complete accident. And maybe it's not by complete accident. Maybe she was actually trying to kill your Doomfist. But regardless, right, taking this challenge would be completely absurd. And then you re-peek it without healing yourself, dude. Are you crazy? Right? You've got a nade. Just nade yourself. At least, please. If you're going to do this, at least heal yourself first, right? Because now she shoots you in the toe and you're dead, right? She grazes your ear, you're dead, right? Literally, she sneezes in your direction, you're dead with this much HP, right? We can't be peeking on half HP, especially not into a Widowmaker, right? Because she'll absolutely obliterate you here.
Tactical visor out.
Heal ourselves. Absolutely need to be healing ourselves here now, right?
I will keep you
Okay, we go down to our Moira for heals, which...
Again.
Nano him? Definitely should have nanoed him here.
You're going to be okay. You're powered up. Get in
Okay,
there.
so it's too late at this point, right? If you nano him, you give him the damage reduction and maybe he lives a little bit longer.
Wait, so I have a question real quick.
Yep.
So, what does Nano do? It gives you damage reduction
And extra damage.
and extra. That's it.
Yes, it makes you tankier and scarier. Yeah.
Okay.
Just makes you very
Okay.
scary. Right. Yeah. Balls of steel to throw that nade, but I guess you're going to die anyway.
Yeah, I was just trying to reset there. Try to get a pick on the Hanzo, but it wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. We also have...
think
Oh, no. Why?
She's my go-to healer, so I kind of feel comfortable with her. So I guess that's why I switched to her.
Yeah, okay. I understand.
Enemy sniper. Get your head down. I'm taking care of that. Damage amplified.
I do understand this. It is just making your life very difficult. And again, right, this is such a small thing. But rather than standing here, we could be stood here, right? And this is the same thing I was talking about being close up on the angles. Because if you're close up on the angles, they have to swing really far around it to be able to shoot at you, right?
Yeah.
So we're just not, again, we're not using the hard cover, right? And we die for that. We also, on Anna, didn't... Okay, it was such a short sequence, but we didn't get any nades that were particularly high value, right? Okay, it was so short, it was really hard to, like, make that judgment. But I don't think there was one time where you were looking for an aggressive nade. And you certainly didn't get the opportunity... Well, you certainly didn't get any, like, big heals off either, right? We hit a one-man nade in our Sigma. But realistically, our nades have to be hitting 2 or 3 people to be high value. Absolutely crazy, dude, that you just peek out here without even doing anything, right?
Yeah.
Peeking this sightline is pretty mad. It's definitely... Generally, it's better to go this way because you're restricting the LOS. Whereas if you go here, everything can peek shoot you at the same time, right? Whereas if you go this way, and you see she's playing back there on the left, then you can be like, oh shit, well, maybe I'll go back. Right? Or you could just wait a little bit. You could just give your team the info. I can't peek. Widow's back left. Can someone shoot at her? You know? Okay. Okay, but we're playing hardcover here again. This is good. Okay. Go back to our Ashe. So again, right, we should be pocketing our Ashe. She's the one we really want to be with. And we fly back to no hard cover. So we have the opportunity to fly somewhere less crap.
Let me get you patched up. Right beside you.
We probably could have pocketed our Doomfist throughout this whole thing here as well, right? Okay, so this is really awkward here, right? We shouldn't have walked like this. This was terrible because we just kind of crossed that sideline and rely on the shield. Okay, we go up to our Doomfist. Flying to your Ashe here would have been great, right? Or ask him to peek you, and then you can fly to him. Because you don't want to be where you are now, right? This is just terrible for you. Right?
Yeah.
Because you're now just in open space. It's really awkward. But I think like you say, it's maybe just a misunderstanding of the kind of playstyle that you want to be having, right? Because I don't think... You're not getting maximum value because you're not damage boosting and healing the targets that you really want to be, right? If you're constantly healing and damage boosting your Doomfist, he's going to go in, he's going to go really deep, and he's going to get kills, right? He's going to feel much less pressured. Okay, we get caught up by that grab. That's kind of unfortunate. But we probably shouldn't have ever been in that position, right? You always want to make sure, if it's possible, to have someone between you and the enemy team as Mercy. Even if you're playing ultra aggressive, right? You put your DPS between you and the enemy team, right? Whether it be a Hanzo, whether it be an Ashe, right? You stand behind them so that if you get shot at, they die and not you. Okay, so we're not gonna... So we kind of hesitate on that res. What are you waiting for, right?
I think I was just making those clear.
I mean, if it wasn't clear, they'd be shooting at you, right? Don't hesitate on our ult here. And again, we're just kind of walking around and... Okay, we walk back to cover, right? But the way that we do this is really questionable, right?
I need to use my mobility more.
Absolutely, right? Because... Okay, sorry, I didn't want to go back quite this far, right? But you get this done. And the position you have now is actually okay, right? I mean, you can tuck yourself into this corner. That's okay, right? Because you can then fly back over here by flying to your Moira, right? Or someone who stood back here. But it's clearly a concept that you're sort of familiar with, like I said. Like, you are using the hardcover. We're just not doing a great job of getting from piece of hardcover to piece of hardcover. And again, what are we waiting for with our ult, right? We're waiting for someone to die Because that seems to be like your trigger to press Q here. Is oh well, look, we've lost this fight. Quick, let's press Alt. Right, you don't need to wait. Right, just press Q. You're going to be damage boosting your team, and ideally do it before your team is like in Narnia. Everyone's split, like everyone's taking 1v1s all over the whole map. Right. If your team are all grouped up, it gets more value. Right, simple as that. And that's another good reason to do it early in the fight. So Ash is dead. Maybe we're going to get the res on him. And we can actually do it from hard cover, which is great. Oh god, so we're 2 down. And I guess we're now going to press Q.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Just waiting for it. No, we get caught out of position. Okay, that was unfortunate getting stuck on the geometry. Oh, so now we're going to ult in the 3v6. Yes. Nice. Right, you can see why this is bad, right?
Yeah, I do. I'm not very. I never like really thought much about her ult, honestly. 'Cause I've been told that it's a throwaway ult.
It is a throwaway ult. That's why you need to be using it way earlier.
Oh.
Right, you're holding it for so long that you don't get value on it. Okay, again, this is fine. This position's fine, but don't stand here for this long, right? I would already be flying up to your Ash. Your Sigma is... I mean, to put it nicely, he's creating space. He's feeding, right? But straight away, I should be thinking, well, the second he dies, I'm next, right? Get yourself up here. Get yourself out of the enemy's LOS, right? And you're safe. Right? I guess...
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do. Okay. So, and I think we just wait a tad too long on that, right? Oh! Oh, and we see 9. Victory. Okay. So, as I said at the start, the key thing is to be able to take something away from this now, actionable, and change your play accordingly, right? And that's what you want to be focused on, right? You want to be focused on the things that are going to make you a better player, right? Not what your team are doing, not whether you're winning or losing the game. Focus on the things that you personally need to improve on. So, what would you say is number one? You can reel them off for me. What's the first point you'd say? Maybe, ideally, the most important one, but you know, we can go in any order.
Just try to be hard cover and try not to die every.
So move from hard cover to hard cover, right?
Yeah.
Or even I can put it maybe simpler: maintain hard cover, right? Move from hard cover to hard cover, and don't stand around in open space. Also, shields don't count as hard cover. Right? You could be stood behind a shield on a piece of hard cover, like I said before, right? You remember back on first point? Maybe I can go. Oh, sorry. Ugh. I'll just go back to exactly this corner here, right? You remember? And I said if the Rhine stood here with his shield up, you can be stood here, you can be shooting through his shield, you're then still at hard cover, and that's fine, right? That's cool. No problems with that. Okay. Next point.
Ult usage. I need to get better at it.
Specifically, what are you going to change?
Be a little bit more aggressive with it.
Exactly, right? So don't hold your ult. It's fine to use it pre-fight, right? In fact, you will often find that you'll get more value with it using it pre-fight. Especially in the silo. Okay. I got another one that kind of relates back to the first point, is use your mobility to get from hard cover to hard cover. Right? We spent a lot of time, like, because you are kind of like aware of the hardcover, and you are stood at it like a fair amount of the time. But sometimes we're just not using our mobility, right? When you're a really, really mobile hero, and you should be using that to get from hardcover to hardcover.
Yeah.
Anything else? I mean, there definitely are more
I
things.
need to pocket a little bit more.
Absolutely
Instead of
right.
helping
So
the tanks.
understand Mercy's playstyle and where she fits into a comp. I can write an explanation if you want, actually. Right, so your job is to enable DPS aggression. Right. You don't want to be playing too passive or focusing heals on your tanks too much. Right, so yeah. I mean, that's kind of it in a nutshell, right? We want to be with the DPS. Ideally, they're pushing aggressively, and you're enabling them, right? You want to enable your DPS. That is your job. That means you can allow them to get kills easier, right? That is the whole point of Mercy, because of your mobility, right? Your mobility allows you to put yourself in a kind of more dangerous position, still using hardcover, right? But in a more dangerous position that you can then just fly back to your team and go back to another piece of hardcover if you're pressured. Absolutely. Anything else?
With Ana, be a little bit more aggressive with the nades as well.
Yep. So don't be afraid to use your Ana nade aggressively. Yep. It's not something that we got the chance to talk about because you didn't really play enough Ana, right? But don't be afraid to use it. A lot of the stuff, right? A lot of the stuff that we said here applies to Ana, right? Holding your ult for too long on Ana is bad. Not playing hardcover on Ana is bad. Those are both things that are really terrible. The only thing is understanding your playstyle is different, right? Ana is a sniper, and she's very squishy, so she wants to be far back, right? You want to be as far away from the enemies as possible most of the time, unless you're looking for an aggressive nade. But it's fine to use it aggressively. Yeah. So don't be afraid to use your nade aggressively. If you hold it too long, you won't get value. Although, I do want to point out that in Silver, using your grenade aggressively isn't... It's not as useful as doing it in higher elos. Because people in Silver do not know how to capitalize on a good nade, right? They won't see a nade and be like, push, 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 right? Whereas they would be in, say, Diamond or above, right? Or even Plat, probably. They would recognize that a good nade is a go button, right? It's a trigger to engage. So be careful on that one, right? Is the one thing I want to say, right? Take that one with a pinch of salt. Ideally, so we didn't really get to see you use your nade much, right? But like, if you're holding it for the whole fight, you didn't get value from it, right? So that's kind of the times when I'd be like, well, you should have used it aggressively because you didn't get to use your nade at all. Ideally, your nade hits 2 or more targets, right? Absolute minimum, your nade has to hit 2 people. In the best, like, a good nade would be, okay, look, your Reinhardt is swinging against the other Reinhardt. They're both swinging each other, and you throw your nade, and you heal your Reinhardt up, and you purple the other Reinhardt, right? And that is giving everything that a nade does, right? Because it's facilitating aggression, and it's stabilizing your Reinhardt, right? It's keeping him alive, and it means that he can play even more aggressive because you've healed him up. And that's the kind of thing where you're going to get a lot of value on Ana. For your mechanics, we kind of briefly mentioned this, but I would advise you go do some Ana paintball. If Ana's like someone you're really comfortable with and you want to like get better at Ana, then just go do some Ana paintball, right? Practice the quick
Mhm.
scoping. Right, so practice quick scoping on Anna. I put in brackets. Anna paintball. Right, and you can just search for this in custom games and you'll find an Anna paintball lobby. Oh, another point I wanted to make about the hardcover, which we did make. Pivot close around the hardcover, right?
Oh yeah.
And like, yeah, okay, this does go back to that first point about like maintaining hardcover as much as possible, because that's essentially what it is, right? But it's just like a specific example of that, where if you're playing close to that hardcover, you're going to get it back around it much faster because you don't have to move as far. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's a point that we can make about the Anna positioning that you made in that first fight, right? In that, in general, in the first fight, you don't know what comp they're going to play, so don't put yourself in aggressive position, right? So, I'll just say, like, before you know their composition, make sure you are positioned safely. Right, because in that first fight, we just, like, went top without even thinking about it, and it got us punished. And we definitely could have positioned more safely for that. Okay, let me read these back to you. I'll just post them in our chat. And if there's anything else you want to add, you can say that at the end. So, maintain hardcover. We've got to move from hardcover to hardcover and avoid standing in open space. Shields don't count. Don't hold your ult. It's fine to use it pre-fight. Use your mobility to get from hardcover to... Oh, I'll specifically say that don't hold your ult in brackets. Well, it's fine to use it pre-fight. Brackets, as Mercy, right? The same thing stands with Anna. You don't want to hold your ult for too long. Using your mobility to get from hardcover to hardcover. Understand Mercy's playstyle and where she fits into a comp. Your job is to enable DPS aggression. You don't want to play too passive or focus heals on your tanks too much. Don't be afraid to use your Anna nade aggressively. If you hold it too long, you won't get value. Ideally, your nade hits 2 or more targets. Practice quickscoping on Anna paintball. Pivot close around hardcover. And before you know the composition, make sure you are positioned safely. Anything else? I think we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much everything that I can think of. Okay. Great.